Okay, first things first. If you're here because you love Joker 2019 and expected a continuation of Arthur Fleck's slow descent into madness with that same gritty, realistic vibe, I've got some news for you. This one took a sharp left turn into the musical lane. And not in the cool, we're breaking new ground way, but more like, let's slap some glitter on a noir drama and call it a day. So, what's going on with Joker? Folie? Let's dive in and untangle this bizarre sequel. Todd Phillips' latest is visually stunning, but narratively hollow. If you're in it for the cinematography, you'll be in for a treat. If you're here for character development and storytelling, well, you might want to lower those expectations. Let's start with the big elephant or Joker, I guess, in the room, Todd Phillips. Now, don't get me wrong, the guy can direct. The visual aesthetic of Joker, Folie is top-notch. We're talking haunting, beautifully shot scenes that are dripping with atmosphere. Every frame feels like a painting you'd want to hang on your wall, except maybe for the parts where Lady Gaga randomly bursts into song. But more on that later. The problem here isn't how the film looks, it's how it feels, or rather, how it doesn't. Remember how the Hangover trilogy started off brilliant and then slowly declined into a what's even happening anymore situation? Well, Phillips pulled a similar trick here. Sure, we get to see some gorgeous visuals, but the story? Yeah, that got left behind in a dumpster somewhere between the first Joker film and this one. There's this expectation that sequels should build on what came before them. Characters should evolve, situations should escalate, and the stakes should get higher. In Folie none of that really happens. Arthur Fleck, Joaquin Phoenix, as disturbingly good as ever, just sort of exists throughout the movie, without much changing in his life. The introduction of Gaga's Harley Quinn, sorry Lee, is meant to shake things up, but it doesn't really. Instead, it's like we're stuck in a loop, revisiting the past over and over again like it's a broken record. We're back at the same locations, revisiting the same events. In short, we're going nowhere fast. Speaking of characters, where are they? Or more precisely, where's their development? In a film that's supposed to be all about the psychology of its leads, it's baffling how static everyone feels. Arthur Fleck barely evolves from where we left him in the first film, which is disappointing given the rich psychological terrain we could have explored. It's like the filmmakers took one look at the character arc and said, he's fine where he is. Let's add some songs instead. And then we have Lady Gaga. Oh, Lady Gaga. Don't get me wrong, she's a force. Her performance has energy, and her voice is stunning. But her character, Lee, feels like a ghost in the narrative. She's there, but not there, you know? She doesn't really impact the story in any meaningful way, and her relationship with Arthur feels underdeveloped. I kept waiting for some spark, some madness to ignite between the two of them, but it never quite happens. Honestly, she deserved a better script. Also, what was the point of adding Harvey Dent, played by Harry Lottie, if you're not going to do anything interesting with him? He feels like he's there just because fans know the name, but his presence adds nothing to the plot. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room, again, the musical numbers. Look, I'm all for innovation. Taking risks is what keeps cinema interesting. But turning Joker 2 into a musical? Bold choice, Phillips. Unfortunately, it didn't land. The songs feel jarring, like they've been plucked from an entirely different movie and dropped into this one. Instead of adding depth or enhancing the story, they feel like roadblocks, interruptions to what could have been a more engaging narrative. There's an idea floating around here about music as an escape for our inner selves, which is kind of cool in theory. But the execution is all wrong. The song choices feel out of place, and the musical segments break the already shaky flow of the film. Instead of deepening Arthur and Lee's connection, they create a tonal mess that's hard to recover from. It's almost like the filmmakers got lost in their own ambition, forgetting that the narrative still needs to be coherent. I have to ask because I genuinely don't know, what was this movie about? Like, was there a point to all of this? I spent 2 hours watching Joaquin Phoenix do his usual brilliant thing, but when the credits rolled, I was left scratching my head. Was it just a courtroom drama? Was it a love story? Was it a psychological thriller? It tries to be all three, but it doesn't succeed in being any of them. The plot, if you can call it that, mostly revolves around Arthur in court. Yup, that's the movie. Arthur sits in court. Lady Gaga sings. Rinse and repeat. Every once in a while, We get a flash of something interesting, a hint at Arthur's psyche or a glimpse into his twisted relationship with Lee, but it's fleeting. By the time the film wraps up, I was left asking, was that really it? If you're expecting the same kind of deep, psychological exploration of Arthur Fleck's character that we got in the first Joker, prepare to be disappointed. This sequel is more interested in revisiting past glories than it is in forging new ground. It's a sequel that feels more like an epilogue, a footnote to a story that didn't need one. I will give credit where it's due. Joaquin Phoenix and Lady Gaga are the shining lights of this otherwise dull film. Phoenix, as always, is magnetic. His portrayal of Arthur Fleck remains as captivating and unnerving as ever. You can see the depths of his madness in every twitch and subtle smile. It's a performance that almost saves the film. Almost. Gaga, on the other hand, does the best with what she's given. She's fierce, committed, and her singing is on point, as expected. But her character just doesn't have enough substance to stand on equal footing with Phoenix's Arthur. Their dynamic should have been electric, but instead, it feels more like a spark that never quite catches fire. Verdict: a visually stunning but empty sequel. So, where does that leave us? Joker, Folie à Deux, is a frustrating sequel because it could have been great. The performances are stellar, the visuals are breathtaking, and there's potential in the concept. But the execution? It just doesn't hold up. The film is all style, no substance, a beautiful package with nothing inside. Todd Phillips has proven that he can direct a visually engaging film. But when it comes to crafting a compelling story, this one falls flat. The music, while ambitious, is more of a distraction than a highlight. And the lack of character development or meaningful plot progression leaves the whole experience feeling hollow. In the end, I give Joker, Folie à Deux, a 6.5 out of 10. It's worth a watch for the performances and the visuals, but don't expect it to live up to the brilliance of the first film. If anything, it'll leave you wondering, was this really necessary?